Greetings, salutations, respect, and love. I am Scott. You're in the Prog Corner. Welcome to your live Sunday Prog sermon. I've got an all-star panel with me today. I'm not wasting any time. I want to just share all the love to my beautiful panelists, including Pontus, the Swedish prog nerd, back from the grave. We haven't seen you in forever. Pontus, how are you?
I'm doing fine. Still listening.
This is awesome. This is so much fun. It's like, they say you can't ride the school bus, right? No, that's a lie. We got Pontus, and it just feels like the old times. Feels like he never left. Same can always be said when Scott G. Davis joins the big old program from Mythologic. The guy who's just dominating the charts on Prog Archives. It's kind of ridiculous. He's got like a monopoly on the Prog Archives charts over there. Decade. It's amazing.
You how he does it.
I picked the wrong year to release an album. You got Opeth, you got 3 Neil Morse records. There's just so much great stuff out there.
Let's get the 600-pound gorilla in the room. Let's just clear it up right now. My good friend Scott G. Davis, he and I have not spoken about it. His album did not make my top 50 for the year, but I do want to say publicly that I am doing the top prog songs of 2024. There's a song on your new album or your latest album, Scott, that most certainly will be on there. I think you might know which one it is. Because you and I have talked about your album a little bit.
Yeah,
I think you might know which one. Definitely made my top list. But anyway, that's neither here nor there because we've got all the way from Alberta, Canada. Oh, it's none other than Wayne from A Pocket Full of Heap, back for probably his 40th or 50th time on the Prog Corner show here. How you doing, Wayne?
Oh, not too bad. Not too bad. Just enduring the cold up here.
Yeah, how bad is it?
Oh, it's getting there. Today not too bad, but soon, hey, from the looks of it, Scott, soon we may be countrymen. That's
there
the way
you go. There you go. That's right.
Is the mail running yet, Wayne?
I think the government is stepping in and telling them to get back to work.
Well, yeah, it's kind of Christmas time, so
yeah. The thing about Canada Post, how do you know it's Canada
Jeff.
Post? They're always striking at Christmas time.
Wow. Look at this. Look at this, Scott. Jeff Dennis says your album's way better than that horrible band Opeth's latest album. Oh, that doesn't feel terrible, does it, Scott?
Oh, well, look, I have no illusions that what I do creatively is going to appeal to everybody. It's not going to be for everyone.
That's right.
And you had, Scott, if I may say something in reply to what you said, you had a seriously unenviable task this year.
Yeah,
there was at least 150 really good, if not great, prog albums that came out this year.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Which was weird because I only had one perfect score in 2024, but, I had so many that I rated anywhere from 7.5 to a 10. I probably had 200.
Yeah, it was not. I can't imagine what your task was in narrowing.
Oh man, it was horrible. And I kind of go through it all year, and try to go back and listen to everything again. And I try to do that, periodically throughout the year. So some records that I'm pretty sure aren't going to make the list, I'm still giving 3 or 4 or 5 listens to. I don't know how you do it over there in Ireland, Pat. But I'm telling you, here in America, we take this kind of stuff very seriously. How you doing, Pat?
I'm not too bad at all, Scott. And hello, everyone. And we're talking about weather. It's very mild here in Ireland at the moment. About
really
13, 14 C. I don't know what that is over there.
Yeah. Let's see.
13, 14 C. That's way warmer than here.
Off.
Yeah.
50. What is that?
50 Fahrenheit, around that. Yeah.
Something like 50. Yeah.
It's going to be 71 here today. So.
Okay, well, there you go. The weather around the world is in, and what we're going to probably do a better job at forecasting and prognosing is all the great music that came out in the year 2000. Scott, this was your idea, and originally I'm like, I don't know about the year 2000 because I think about a lot of the bands that I love and care about. It was like an off year for a lot of my favorite bands that either they didn't have a record out or for whatever reason their names didn't appear anywhere. And I'm like, why? What's going on with that? I thought for sure. No, they didn't. Well, this band, no, they didn't either. It's like, but a bunch of really, really, really good records. So, what prompted you to come up with this particular year, Scott?
Well, there are a handful of, we all have our pivotal, what I like to call classic prog records of the big six, the ones that inform the kind of the bedrock of the whole thing for everyone. We all know them. We all love them, some more than others, each of us. But later on, when those second waves started to come in around the mid 90s and whatever, most of those bands by the year 2000 really started to come into their own. You had the first Transatlantic was that year, and I still hold that one very dear to my heart. There was just I don't want to get into too many right now because I don't want to spoil anybody's list, but there were so many great albums, and I was astounded to find that, when I went to Prog Archives and looked at their top for that year, I'm like, wow, how many great records. And then I did a little further research outside Prog Archives. It was just a banner year for modern prog artists doing their thing. And I think it was almost like a second wind of the current movement that's still moving forward today. Ekelin, that's another great one. That was on my list. Unfortunately, I managed to delete my list from my iPad mere moments ago. So
no, those are some good choices right there, Garden Jester. All of them were on my short list.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
It was just
how about these right here? Light Bulb Sun.
Yep.
Roger Hodgson.
Those are the Hodgson wasn't on my top 10, but it was certainly on my list. The rest of them were in my 10. It was just when I saw that, because I was looking at other years, you've done shows on certain specific years, and I thought, well, what about the 2000s? And as a matter of fact, it is one of my all-time favorite albums, Music Fan, but it is not number one.
Hey, Kyle's in the peanut gallery. Should we have him jump on board? You know anything about 2000? You know what?
I get to go first, though, because I think Kyle and I have the same choice.
Really? Well, I am not going to shame anybody, okay?
I want to say a few things. I've also been thinking about the 2000 thing, because that was a time when this music was truly and utterly underground. It was, if you look at the major albums of 2000, it is, well, Radiohead is there. We can argue till cows come home whether Radiohead is a prog band or not, but they definitely were progressing. And that Kid A record is considered very much a fantastic album. But on the other hand, we have Eminem, we have Outkast, we have Madonna, and we have all that. So underneath this, what we normally call progressive rock is brewing. And it's brewing in a very, as Scott said, in a very fruitful and very it's a very good year for people working together. I mean, the 1998 to 2002 period is where all this sort of Magna Carta labels and we get to see K-Scope and all those labels, and that leads into Inside Out, Roadrunner. Those labels were delivering the goods for this music, but you had to find it. You had to sort of, my way in was, I will talk about this later, but it was a certain magazine in UK.
Yeah, remember, Pontus, we're not a 90-minute show anymore.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
We're a 60-minute show now. Where I'm glad to have you back in here.
That is very interesting. You had to find it. And then you find it. You found gold, but you had to dig. You had to dig deep, and that was a very interesting thing for me to go in that and see, because that is when we got the term classic rock, and it became sort of a different genre altogether. So that is fine. That is interesting.
It is. Yeah, it really is.
Hey, Kyle's in the green room. Let's see if we can pull him up, and then we're gonna have Scott G. Davis, author OP for this thread, if you will. He's going to try to make it all worthwhile because, boys and girls, my skepticism is, I don't know if it's obvious or not, but either way, we've got Kyle back from the grave. This is like old Lang Syne. This is like, going to your old high school reunion today.
Yeah.
This is awesome. Kyle, how are you?
Good. How are you doing, everyone? Good to see Pontus back. Yeah, it's been a while.
Oh, nice to see you too.
It is. That's right.
Kyle, 2000 was a great year. I love the year 2000. Very top heavy.
Yeah. It was a good one.
Especially. So
we're doing things a little bit differently. I told the guys before we went live. Well, not Kyle, because he just jumped on there. Kyle, thank you so much. It's just better having 6 people on the screen. It just looks better. It's more balanced. My OCD brain. I wouldn't watch it with 5. I'd have a hard time. It's like, no, how do I?
It's symmetrical.
Thank you. Yeah, I don't like it any other way. I want 4 or 6. Anyway, before we got on board, I was telling the guys that I was on the Sea of Tranquility, the review crew. Say that 10 times fast, and we did the year 1986, and I had each of the panelists. Well, I didn't. It was Jamie Laszlo. So shout out to my fellow Ohioan Jamie for doing a great job over there on Sea of Tranquility with that whole series. But anyway, we were given the task of picking out one album, and picking out one album from the year 2000. You can talk about, some honorable mentions and stuff like that. Everybody was cool with it, but Scott G. Davis, he didn't want to play by the rules, which, honestly, the reality is that it's the Prog corner. There are no rules. Well, there's one rule. Don't make Mrs. Prog Corner upset. Don't do that. No. So with that, preamble, with that preface, Scott, what is going on with you in the year 2000? What do you got for us?
Well, I managed to delete my actual top 10 list mere moments before we went live here. So I'm going to be extemporaneously doing some of this. I did want to mention one record that doesn't qualify because it came out in 1999, but it's an excellent record, and if folks don't know about it, it's The Ladder by Yes. It came out in 99, and it would have been on this list very high for me had it been a 2000 release. I won't say a lot about it. Just go seek it out. I had a lot of things on that list. I'm trying to put it back together in my mind. IQ, The Seventh House is on that list. I absolutely adore Space Revolver by the Flower Kings. It's my very favorite Flower Kings record. It is it perfectly encapsulates absolutely everything that I love about the Flower Kings. And I at least have an affection for everything they've ever done as a group, and Roina in particular. But that one was on there. Kansas, Somewhere to Elsewhere was on that list. Of course, we waited forever for that record, and it was a record fraught with strife inside the band. Looking at the list that I have here, Spock's Beard 5 was that year. Oh, come on. Here we go. Sympty, of course, was that year by Transatlantic. What would the shape of current progressive rock be without the albums that I just mentioned? Sympty has been so influential, and the stuff that they continue to do. Disconnected by Fate's Warning was that year.
Yes, it was. And y'all in the chat, come on. Look what you've done, Scott. They're all talking about The Ladder. Thanks a lot. Why?
Well, yeah, I just wanted to mention that because that's such a great album, and a lot of Yes fans don't know about it or have just kind of glossed over it. There's a lot to recommend that album.
Brilliant album.
I love it, but it's not 2000. It doesn't matter how good it is.
They toured 2000, didn't they?
Ekelin.
Yeah, they did. They did.
Cowboy
Poems Free.
Absolutely. That was the first Ekelin album I bought, and I've been on board that train since then. But for me, I'm going to condense now. the absolute best album that year is also my very favorite album of all time, and that is The Shaming of the True by Kevin Gilbert.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's why you wanted to go first. Oh, Kyle. Oh, I feel bad for you, Kyle. I hope you have a second choice.
Yes, I've got the talent version. Yeah,
I've got at least 7 versions of this.
No, you, Scott, you talk at length about shaming. You talk at length about Kevin, and obviously we have one of the biggest Kevin Gilbert fans in the world with you. So maybe Kyle can talk a little bit about it.
Oh, of course. Well, my coming into the world of Kevin Gilbert happened in the early 90s. I was listening to I was living in Topeka, Kansas at the time, and listening to the college radio station in Manhattan, Kansas, K-State University. And they played this great song, and it was called The Last Plane Out. And he didn't say who it was. And I spent 2 days contacting the station and getting bounced around before anybody could figure out, oh, that's okay. We figured out what it is. That's The Ghost at Number One by Jellyfish. And so I immediately went out and bought that Jellyfish record. Fell completely in love with that, but realized, well, the song I asked for is not on this album. Okay. So another few days, I mean, those days you heard it on the radio, and then if they didn't say who it was, you had to figure it out. So then I found out it was by a band called Toy Matinee, the pet project of Kevin Gilbert. And that's how I first got into Kevin Gilbert. Fast forward to 2000, Kevin had passed away, unfortunately, and the album was completed posthumously. Oh God, I got to get down to my notes have gone away. The man that's been behind mixing all of this stuff is John Cuniberti, who is a wonderful human being and an absolute genius. He has actually remastered this thing 4 times, and there's a new version coming out in 2025. They're finally getting out the box set of this, which includes a newly remastered version, an alternate version of the entire album, a whole bunch of extra things that have never been heard before. And we're being told by the estate that this will be the last thing from the vaults. They will have released everything that he left behind, but he left a considerable amount behind. It's just a genius album. It really is. I loved it almost since the beginning. The first time I listened to it, I was kind of like, okay, I like where this is going. But it's one of those albums that with successive listens, the layers start to peel away, and it reveals the complexity and the perfection of Kevin's vision. I've often wondered, would it be what it is if he had been around? Would it have even come out at all? Had he lived? He might have cast it aside and said, I'm moving on, because
people with that kind of talent level who leave us early, you're left with that weird feeling like, you know, am I just loving this person so much because they're not with us anymore? Am I kind of putting it on the pedestal, Kurt Cobain style a little bit? And then you get the what could have beens, like you dream up all these scenarios where Kevin Gilbert is allowed for his talent to be recognized worldwide as one of the greatest musical minds of our time. Yeah, just an amazing record. Kyle, how did you come about your Kevin Gilbert fandom?
Well, I owe a lot to actually the Dream Theater fan base, because I was, of course, hanging out on the Mike Portnoy's message board in the early 2000s, and you know, Toy Matinee was brought up a few times, and I had actually heard Kevin's name. I heard he died, and I read some stories about, you know, everything with Sheryl Crow. And I even played some of his music from Thud on the radio, on the local radio station I had been DJing as a volunteer, but it still hadn't really clicked. And then just like Scott, when I finally heard Toy Matinee, I picked it up when the first OSI album came out. Portnoy posed the question, how many bands have self-titled songs on an album? And Toy Matinee came up, and I picked it up, and I'm like, this is really, it just clicked. Then I learned about his relationship with Spock's beard and everything like that. And it just kind of hit me like a ton of bricks.
Wait a second. Graced by Jeff.
He was so young, and he worked with all these people, from Michael Jackson to Madonna to, you know.
Kyle,
what
is Ian right? Was Grace Jeff Buckley? Was that 2000?
No.
No, 94, 94.
Oh, okay, because I'm like, what's he talking
There's a lot
about?
of parallels with Jeff Buckley and
He's
Kevin
probably
Gilbert,
he's probably referencing him because he's
Making the
another
parallel.
genius artist who died too young.
They both covered Back in New York City. I always wondered about the two of them. They also
they did.
California, New York, New Jersey connections. They both
Okay, I get it now. I'm the dummy actually.
Yeah, but so that's kind of how it happened, and it just when you finally find something that you love, you start to check out more of their work, and it's sort of everyone has a band or an artist like that. Really, like, oh my god, I got to have more. And he just he could play any instrument. He could he was just a genius songwriter. He was very he liked to do things the way he did. The whole thing with Genesis, of course, everyone wanted him to become the singer for Genesis. He was going to audition a few weeks after after the accident. But I kind of came to conclude that he probably was best someone who worked on his own agenda. Even with Keith Emerson, he did the album with Keith Emerson. He wasn't able to sing on it, but he was just happy to do it. But I think Kevin Gilbert was best on his own as opposed to in a band, because he did Giraffe, he did NRG, he did all these other projects where he kind of wanted to steer the ship, and not everyone was necessarily perfectly comfortable with that. So Shaming is kind of display of that in some ways, because it's a story of a fictional but somewhat autobiographical musician making it in the business, and the business burns him out. And it just turns out, it's not really not all it's cracked up to be, where he ends up now. But
it's not a sad ending. He doesn't kill himself or die or anything.
No.
He ends up wiser and older and nodding his head at the end of it.
And like that, if he hadn't passed away, I've come to conclude that he very, very possibly would just be working in Hollywood and doing like those side projects. I don't know if fame really was ultimately best.
I don't know. Yeah, probably not. But
Goran
has the answers here. The top 5. We're all going to be dead wrong, because Goran, who has forgotten more about prog rock than I know, he's proclaimed these to be the best albums from the year 2000. Do we know any of these bands?
KBB,
nope.
I've heard of.
Yeah, KBB we know.
Prog scene, a lot of people love that band.
I know KBB, but I don't know Towel. I don't know Cabezas de Serra, and I probably should. Sounds like something I'd know, right? Jose Luis Fernandez.
With your knowledge, I'm surprised you wouldn't know most of these, but
I know 1 out of 5. I'm terrible, but Goran, man, he gave me his top 50 for 2024, and I was happy because I'd heard a half of them. I really had. So that to me was a big win. Goran, we miss you on Instagram. Your new Dawn of Prog page was absolutely astoundingly great. I'm so sorry that it got hacked and taken away from you. Big loss for the Prog community, but thanks for chiming in here. Scott, any final last words?
Well, I hesitate to kind of lay all the superlatives on Kevin in general, and the shaming in particular, because I've had experiences in my life where someone did that with me, and that expectation of loving it as much as they do kind of let me down. So I think it's definitely proggy. It's definitely well crafted. It's Kevin's masterpiece. It really truly is, and that's saying something, because he put out a lot of other really good records in his short career. So yeah, my definitely, and that's among, I had trouble finding 10 to put on the list that I had before I deleted it. There was an awful lot of good releases that year, but for me, Shaming of the True, it's my all-time favorite record. It's perfect for me. So
nice. So Kyle, in other words, what's your second favorite album from the year 2000?
Mine?
Yeah. I know. Come on, Shaming would have been your top pick. It was.
That's no secret. But my second favorite was my favorite. It's my favorite prog metal album ever.
Okay.
Perfect Element. Salvation. The greatest concert of my life.
Show it a little more.
500 concerts.
Show the cover. Show the artwork a little more, Kyle. Get it up close to that camera. Oh yeah, look at that. Beautiful. Fantastic.
The blue and the yellow colors of waving high here, right?
Man, that is gorgeous. Pain of Salvation. Good call.
Great album. Great album.
Why do you love this album so much, Kyle?
It taps into nostalgia and also kind of gave me a breath of fresh air. I loved Dream Theater for that time, but it was the first band that like really did something dramatically different, but also interesting. And it just like so many of the songs have these just interlacing like moments. I get goosebumps. The title track especially, but like In the Flesh, the dynamics on In the Flesh, the piano parts, that it just goes up so high. And then there's so many songs that have things that you'd uncover, like Idiot Glossy and King of Lost. King of Lost gets really intense and layered and heavy, but at the same time, it gets gorgeous with the string sections. There's reconciliation. It's just filled. It's filled. It flows so well. Even though some people don't love the production of it, it's a little too hot. But I find that this is also for people like to like latch onto the album that made them a fan. This is the first Pain of Salvation album I ever heard, and it made me a fan. So that's part of it. So.
Awesome.
It's very
awesome
eclectic.
pick. Yeah, it is. I mean, on first listen, you hear how heavy it is. Of all the dynamics Pain of Salvation has and Gilden Lowe has in his music, the first thing that hits you is the heaviness and the darkness. But there's a whole lot of different shades and colors on that record. A fantastic pick. I absolutely adore them. Their whole discography is fantastic. So that was a good pick. I kind of had a bunch of things written down, and I had in my I don't know, honorable mentions, I guess. What was first on my page?
Pain of Salvation.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Oh, look at there.
Kevin, yep. At the drive-in, yep. There you go.
Echoing.
I like that. I just got that White Willow album on vinyl. That's a great
Oh,
White Willow.
I got it on my buy list for sure. Absolutely. I love White Willow. I don't talk enough about White Willow on this channel, by the way. I probably need to do something about that, but maybe they need to send me like a package of White Willow vinyl reissues, and we can correct that real fast. Okay. Oh, wait a second.
Yeah.
I don't want to be begging for product or anything. That's a bad look. Absolutely. That's a terrible look. Hey, Wayne, I kind of got out of view what your pick was going to be today, but what says you about the year 2000?
Well, for me, the year 2000, living it at that time, like the songs I remember I was listening to around that time was pretty much the radio was dominated by, at least up here, by Creed that year.
Sure.
And,
oh, yeah. Three Doors Down.
U2's Beautiful Day was that year.
Yeah,
that's
a
right.
good album.
Great
Kid
Irish
Rock's American
Irish band.
Badass was that year. So lots of variety. And for me, like I said, Scott, my pick for this year, it's two albums. I have no idea why this was done. They were both released the same day. Ayreon, Universal Migrator, parts 1 and 2.
1 and 2.
Ooh.
Do we have a preference?
Go for it, man.
Probably part 1 for me.
Yeah.
But listening to this,
it's the same thing, right? They were released at the same time. It's hard to call them two different albums, right?
and whenever he re-put it up on Spotify, he pretty much combined the whole thing together. So
it's a double album.
Pretty good. I think what I love about this record and what I love about Aaron's music is it's a perfect meld of old school prog with the great Hammond organ sounds and throughout the music, mixed with a lot of contemporary metal. At times it feels almost like what is it? Kind of like electronic music from around that era as well. So, and all these space operas, and I love this record because it's pretty much an album about. It's an album with all these different story points, and it has all these guest singers on here. Let's look at it. Johan Leck Edlund's on this. Flora Jansen of After Forever, and then Nightwish. This is her first record on here. You have Edward Reekers of Kayak. I know you've talked about Kayak before, Scott. And it also has Neil Morse is on this album. Damian Wilson of Threshold's on this album. Bruce Dickinson of Iron Maiden's on this album on one song. But the musicianship on it is just superb. And I was listening to it yesterday, and it reminds me song lengthwise of Joe's Garage, where it's like 2 hours. You sit down, you listen to it, and it just takes you on a journey.
Yeah, it's a commitment though. You gotta carve out a certain amount of time to listen to either Joe's Garage or this one here, because it's supposed to be that way. It's an opera. Have you ever been to an opera, Wayne?
No, I haven't. But if it's anything like
they're
this,
long, man.
Go.
They're really, really long.
Yeah.
So, to be accurate, I guess they gotta, a rock opera needs to be a long thing. And you mentioned one thing about this record where you detected some of the electronica. Think back to 2000, some of the artists that were kicking it really strong, like the Mobies and the House Martins and the Fat Boy Slims and the Chemical Brothers and stuff. I don't know, maybe some of that's anachronistic, but a lot of
How about Jeff Beck around this time was really heavy into electronic music.
So I mean, just it was a different kind of climate, and it's cool that Ayreon was picking up on some of that. And I've talked to a lot of Neil Morse people that this was their first contact with Neil Morse was by this record. So that's a good call right there.
Very good call, yeah.
Yep.
If you think about it, Scott, like Scenes from Memory came out in the fall of 1999.
Yeah.
And I feel like really Scenes from Memory is an album most of the fans got into in the year 2000, like what Scott was saying about The Ladder from Yes.
Yeah.
But also that era, like the late 90s and in the early to mid 2000s, the Dream Theater influence was just all over the place.
Right.
And so I think Ayreon is very much owes a lot to the Dream Theater like fan base and what happened where prog metal was going around that time. And so that's why Ayreon got popular.
Oh, absolutely. No doubt. There's no doubt about it. I mean, the year 2000 and Prog. I mean, let's be honest. It kind of begins and ends with Dream Theater. Just in terms of what people were listening to. Pat's got a strong response to that. Talk to me, Pat. What's going on with you, man? You've been a little quiet here for the first 32 minutes of this live stream.
Listening. I was very interested because a lot of bands there now that I would never have heard of. Right?
Yeah.
We're kind of very secluded over here in Ireland.
Okay, well, first of all, we went on and on and on about Kevin Gilbert. Was he an artist that anybody in Ireland had heard of, or was he getting any kind of respect or love over there in the Republic of Ireland?
No.
Nothing.
Prog is very underground here in Ireland. I mean, very, very underground.
Well, take me back 24 years, Kimosabi. Take me back to that glorious year of 2000, Pat. Before the Twin Towers were attacked, and it was a more innocent time, right? It was, before the internet and smartphones completely ruled our worlds. Wait a second, before YouTube, forget about it. 2000 sucked, man. I don't want to go back there. No, seriously, what were you doing in 2000, and what was the music that was moving you at that point in time? Tell me your story, Pat.
Yeah, well, back in 2000, I didn't think 2000 was a great year for music in general.
Yeah.
You see, I'm a diehard 70s man. I find it very hard to get out in 1979. I always do. I do get out of it. And there was two albums in particular that year that I thought were absolutely superb. The first one, Ian Anderson's The Secret Language of Birds.
That's a good one. Yeah. That's a good one.
Nice.
That was my third pick.
Nice.
I thought when I heard this album, when I bought it, this is the one I bought back in 2000. And when I heard this, I said, Christ, that's better than Jethro Tull.
Yeah.
I mean, the latest.
It's a very good album.
Yeah.
And it has a lot of Arabic signature tunes through it.
Yeah.
Very folky, very proggy. And I actually played it last night did a little bit of homework on it because it's a while since I heard it, and I think it's his best solo album. Now, there's another solo album he has. I can't think of the name of it off the top of my head. A lot of people think it's better. I think this is his best.
Yeah, I like it better than Thick as a Brick too.
Yeah, and it was absolutely the best one up to that point. I mean, it really is sort of a guitar album without the heaviness. This is him going acoustic and going folk. This is his folk album, and it's a fantastic album.
Yeah, but it's his signature tune because they were always kind of folky anyway. Jethro Tull, weren't they? Mixes of prog and bits of jazz, bit of this, a bit, a lot of old English folk influence, a lot of Irish folk influence as well on this, believe it or not. Yeah. And I like that. It's a kind of it's an.
I would hope you would like that, Pat. I would hope you'd like to hear some Irish influences.
Yeah, a lot of music has a lot of Irish influences, believe it or not. You listen back to the old Irish Celtic rock, but this is absolutely superb. This was one of the best albums in 2000. I loved it. My next one, next album is the best album of 2000, and that's bar none. It's the great King Crimson, The Construction of Light.
Yeah, that was on my list.
This album, that's on my list too, as well.
This is Scott. This is just unbelievable. I think this album is better than the three they brought out in the 80s. A lot of people might disagree with that. And the Lark's Tongue and Aspect part, I think it's part 4, is it?
Yeah, I think it's 4.
Yeah, 4. Yeah. The playing on that is just incredible.
Yeah.
I think Kyle down there said on about Dream Theater, the album from 1999. Was it Scenes from Metropolis? Is that the Metropolis album?
That was 99.
The on that is absolutely brilliant. But this is a different level, in my opinion.
Well, this is the first King Crimson album without Bill Bruford since Islands.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's so this ain't your grandpappy's King Crimson anymore.
No. But of course you have the genius Bob Fripp, as they call him, and I love the track on this that I like, and I was watching a review of this album on Pete's show, Sea of Tranquility, and they're on about how they didn't like Prozac Blues, but I love Prozac Blues. There's a name of a track, Prozac Blues.
Yep.
It's absolutely a brilliant
dichotomy of two things.
Yeah, two things. Prozac and blues.
You got the blues and you're taking your Prozac.
You're taking your Prozac. No. And it's the way it's sung. It's just superb.
Well, and I think that's it, Pat. I think you mentioned it's the way that it's sung. I think either you like Ayreon or you don't like Ayreon. There's no in between about Ayreon Ballou, right?
No, but I love Ayreon Ballou, and I loved it when he was with Frank Zappa when he used to do all that quirky stuff live.
Yeah,
and
that was the point. That was the point with that song. He had been quite rightly. He had been very well. A lot of him. He was bullied a lot by the fan base.
Yes,
on that. On that early internet page called Elephant Talk. That is actually what he's talking about. You've been reading too much Elephant Talk.
Yes.
That was a forum that they had, and everybody was going for Ayreon. And now these people, when he's not there, going, "Where's Ayreon?" Right?
Exactly.
I don't know how you could be mean to Ayreon Ballou. It'd be like kicking a dog.
What a musician.
He's so full of the joy of music.
Hey, wait a second. We've got a newlywed in the peanut gallery. Freshly minted married man off the market, boys and girls. I don't care which tree you swing from. The beautiful, the one, the only Harry Whitley's in the peanut gallery. Back from his honeymoon. Thank you so much for being, man. We need to get you on the show before Jeff Downs and crew has you locked up for the next 5 or 6 years, and we can't get you on the show anymore. And you're a big old superstar. And the new Asia album is, the comeback album that we were all looking for because your talent is boundless, Harry. Thank you so much for your support, man. You are awesome. That makes me so happy that Harry watches the show, right?
That's great.
Oh, absolutely.
That's a cool thing.
Brilliant.
I love that.
I have two
And,
honorable mentions, Scott.
Break them off, man. Let's hear
Two
it.
honorable mentions.
Yeah, let's hear it.
7 Letters from Tibet by Tangerine Dream.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Love the Dream. Yep.
That's a brilliant album.
It
and
is.
another honorable mention is The Hidden Step by Osric Tentacles.
Osric's, yeah.
The one with the cat on the front of it.
Yeah,
I didn't realize that was 2000.
Yeah, the one with the cat on the front of it.
I didn't realize that was.
We're just doing the year 2000 Super Mind Day.
Yeah, and I think that's an excellent album. No, I know a lot of people think about Osric Tentacles that every album sounds the same. Actually, they do. Some of them do, actually. The latter ones.
They're like the AC/DC of Prog, right?
They are the AC/DC.
They're worth seeing live, though. If you haven't seen them live, regardless if they sound samey, they're a trip live.
I mean,
superb live, yes.
I bet.
You know, they're the greatest trip, and it's really great that they just continue with the same sounds. You know, you want to be there
all the time. My friend calls them regressive rock, but there you go. He doesn't like them.
You know, I don't want to hear that. You know, well, prog rock, that stands for progressive. That means the music must progress. In whose opinion? You know, progression is not a subjective thing, right? It's not like you can take a microscope and I detect the movement to the left or to the. You know, there's no measurable progression one can make or not make in music. What does that mean? You put more notes per measure? Does that make it more or less progressive? It kind of makes it regressive in some ways and progressive in others. In other words, there's no way to measure whether or not music is progressing. All I know is it any good or not, right? That's all that matters.
A lot of friends of mine who are not into prog, they always ask me, what is the fascination with progressive rock, they say. Well, the very thing I always say to them, well, you have to listen to it.
Oh, yeah.
That's the very first thing you have to do.
That's right. That's right. We love your cat, Kyle.
Yes, we
do.
You
have to actually listen to the music, where a lot of people are into rock with 3-minute songs. It'll be on the background, you know, they have a little beat. They don't remember what it is and they go on to the next one.
Yep.
But you have to put time. Like, if you wanted to listen to Topographic Oceans, Scott's favorite album, you have to sit down and listen to it all. You can't just drop the needle anywhere. That's the way.
Exactly. Not
that's
the
way the artist intended for you to look at it,
right?
Anyway, and certainly how it should be listened to.
Absolutely. It's like a painting.
It's the gift that keeps on giving. That's the way I like to put it. I was on a different video. I mentioned Rush's song "Natural Science." It's the gift that keeps on giving.
Oh, what a track!
Different things.
Absolutely.
That whole album.
That's what happens for me, at least.
Look at that. We're defining prog rock right here on the episode. Everyone's giving us these great pithy.
It gets a bad rap, Scott. It gets a bad rap, I think, prog rock, and people who are into prog rock are always classed as, he's into noodling, as they call it. Yeah. Well, I tell you, it's noodling with a purpose.
Yeah.
You know?
I just think, to me, prog rock, it's very simple, boys and girls. It's just music, only better.
Yep. I always like to say prog is it wants to be.
Yeah, that's right.
Prog is whatever it wants to be.
You can take it anywhere.
It's whatever what you use to scratch that particular itch. It is whatever it wants to be. I don't like definitions. It's either good or it's not. And we all know progressive rock as an innovation, and then prog as a style, and all of that stuff is wonderful. It's just wonderful music. But
you know what's weird, Scott, is if I play for somebody, something like Kite Warrior or Harmonium, and then I play for them something like Blood Incantation, or even something like Haken, and explain to them that that's the same genre.
Yeah. Oh, it's very wide.
What? Yep. What are you talking about? That's the same genre. They don't even sound anything like, each other. And that's the elasticity of prog rock as a definition, as a genre. And that alone, by definition, makes it the best, because there are no rules.
It is the best.
And you know how we feel about rules around here, Pontus. Rule number 1 is keep prog quarter wife happy. So We're going to go to you for your take on 2000. I have no idea what you're going to be busting out, so this is going to be awesome. What do you got for me?
Well, in 2000, I was very much into King Crimson. I had experienced, up to the point in 99, I was really a 1969, 1974 fan. But in the 99, they released a release called Circus, which was a live Impossible concert with the 80s stuff and the 90s stuff wrapped up in the 70s stuff and the 60s stuff. So I had to have it because it was unreleased stuff. So that led me down the path of projects and all those things. So one of my mentions is that album, The Construction of Light, which I like a lot. But we also had a live album called Heavy Construction, released in December that year, which is just fantastic. If you want to hear that lineup with that electronica vibe to it, if we want to hear them improvise and see what they're going, finding the new way, because that is one thing with Crimson, they just wanted to move on. So if you listen to the live versions, you hear something different from the album versions, and the album is great. It's sort of a bit forgotten, but it's absolutely, I mean, Fractured is, I read about this morning. It's actually supposed to be Log Songs in Aspic number 5, but it became Fractured instead. So it had a lot of that electronica vibe to it. And I was into the Collectors Club and all that stuff. But at the time, I picked up a new magazine. It was in a stand in the little town I was living. It was called Classic Rock. And the thing for me was that it had a CD on it, with it. You could grab that and you put it on, and I felt very much of it was crap, honestly. But there was two songs. One was The Ostrich Tentacles. It was a track from that album that you mentioned, Pat. And the other track, and the other track was from a band I haven't heard before. And I was mesmerized by their harmonies and the guitar solo in the end. The track was called She Moved On by Porcupine Tree.
Yeah.
This is my first venture with this band. And Lightbulb Sun for me is...
There it is. Fantastic. Keep showing it, Kyle. The people love seeing
artwork.
Yeah. It is a very... It's very, very poppy, but it's heavy at the same time. It's very melodramatic. It's very Floydian in a sense. It has glorious melodies on there. My favorite track on that is
Gatefold. There we go.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I mean, Russian on Ice is just a tour de force. It starts with Fender Rhodes and ends with cacophony of guitars and drums going for 12 minutes. And it's just the way it builds, the way it, grows. And then you suddenly have things like that Planet Earth before it recycles, where they used times the speeches from Jim Jones of all people, and all that. So it's a bit of darker album, but it's also a very folky album in lots of the tracks. So it's actually one of Steven Wilson's best achievements, I think, with that lineup. Is that because it's very, very cohesive throughout the album. So
and it's proof that Chris Maitland can drum.
Yeah, he was a great.
I mean, come on, man! Everybody overlooks him because of the dude that kind of took over after him. But that guy was amazing, bro. His drumming all the way through that album is so good.
Brilliant drummer, Scott. Brilliant drummer. Yeah.
Good
Yeah.
stuff. Good stuff. You know,
Steven does not
2000 was
play
a
with
great
hacks.
year.
Yeah.
It was
Steven
just a
does not
weird
play
year.
with hacks.
No, Steven Wilson doesn't have to. He's
No.
Steven Wilson, you know.
Yep.
He's the guy that can have Elton John show up on his record. Oh, no problem, Steve. It's only Elton John.
He's a British genius. The whole title of that song I just messed up was Last Chance to Evacuate Planet Earth Before It Is Recycled. And that is actually what Jim Jones says on the tape he sent out to his disciples before they got murdered, all of them.
The Branch Davidian cult.
Yeah,
that's true.
It just and it just hilarious. Now, there's a beautiful song with great bass playing called Hate Song, which is just fantastic. And there's a lot of pop songs as well. So you get this sort of great sort of British pop album with harder edges to it. The next album would be even better, would be, you know, then we would have the three classic ones, you know, the Fear of a Blank Planet and Dead Wing and in Absentia. But those albums that came before it, Stupid Dream and this one, is just fantastic as well.
I still keep coming back to Signify. There's something about that album.
Me too, man.
Holds me in its trance.
There's something so obtuse, and like, you know, most of the time with Steven Wilson, you can grab on to hooks and things. Some of us Signify, and to a lesser extent Storm Corrosion for me. I struggle to find the hooks. They're so obtuse and buried. They're there, but they're just hard to hold on to. They're slippery little things, and it keeps you coming back to Signify over and over and over. By far my most listened to. I don't know if it's my favorite Porcupine Tree album, but Signify is by far my most listened to Porcupine Tree album for that reason.
I love the guitar textures. Steven was in
the
wasn't sure Gilmore. He was just doing some kind of spate like Tangerine Dream, and those guitar textures are mesmerizing me at times.
Well, it's his favorite album, actually, isn't it? Wilson's favorite album is Tangerine Dream's album, Zeiss.
Yep.
Zeiss,
that's his favorite album. He plays
that's
it every day.
Space trip. If anything.
I almost got to see Tangerine Dream once, but the 9/11 happened and they canceled their tour.
That's too bad. But
can I talk about another album? Which
you may talk about one more album before I cut your mic off.
before Mrs.
Before I start getting notes under the door, right?
But let's all talk about Semty.
No Hearts. No, we don't need to.
We don't need to, but we do.
No.
I mean, it's just a fantastic album. It's just a great super group with that beautiful. I mean, We All Need Some Light is the song of that year for me. It's just so beautiful written. It's just that enormously Beatlesque melody to it. It's just that fantastic. And we got Mystery Train, and we got the long one, which I just missed out what I've gone before. What's the title? I'm just old.
In Hell 'Twas in I.
No, the first one.
Oh, All the Above Part 1.
All the above.
All of the above. And it's all of the above. You know, it's everything from including the kitchen sink. You know, it's just fantastic prog at the time. And it's those four people. And it's just fantastic that they got together and they managed to do that and kept on doing it for so long, because it meant that everybody got to know those bands again, you know. And of course it meant it also meant that both Neil Morse could have a toe in the water doing solo things. He actually had done, you know, he will do a solo album 2001, but he really tries his way of getting out of Spock's Beard in a sense. Spock's Beard does another great album for the 5 album. It's just fantastic. Everybody should have it. It's just
that album
is great.
I had honestly forgotten how great the 5 album is until I was reviewing this last week. You can definitely hear the seeds of what came after for Neil on that album, but it's just such a wonderful piece of work. Absolutely.
Well, and you're hitting the nail right on the head. If you look at 2000 Neil Morse, first it's Boxbeard 5, and then it's Sympty. Yeah, both are in 2000. 2001, Bridge Across Forever comes out, right?
That's my favorite. That's my
and
favorite.
then 2002, you got Snow, and then 2003, you got Testimony. It's just ridiculous. It's an embarrassment of riches. And really, 2000 to me is the starting point where Neil Morse went from being a mere mortal to being an absolute prog god. And that's the year 2000 is the exact moment that happened for me. How do you put out 5 and Sympty the same year? It doesn't make any sense. It really doesn't. If you look behind me, you see some interesting albums that came out in 2000.
Debut album.
Yeah, are you a new Pornographers guy?
Yes, I am.
Yeah,
early stuff. Their first 4 records, especially, I like.
Master Romantic, second Death Cab for Cutie album. There, we have the facts. We're voting yes. I know a lot of my people hate the Green Day, but I think Warning's a cute little album. I don't hate it.
Yeah.
How about, of course, Godspeed You, Black Emperor, Lift Your Skinny Fingers Like Antennas to Heaven, Spock's Beard 5, XTC's Wasp Star.
Yeah.
That came out 2000. What else is behind me? I love Modest Mouse, man. I really, really do. And to me, their best album is The Moon in Antarctica. Absolutely fantastic band. I love them.
Listen to it.
We talked about all kinds of stuff, but nobody's talked about Kid A, really. That came out in 2000.
Electronic music, of course. That was sort of an evolutionary time for it, with Kid A being part of it.
But my top 3 went like this. It went very simply. It's Space Revolver, From the Flower Kings.
Love it.
I absolutely adore this album. It's the first album with Jonas Reingold, and I love Michael Stolt, but Jonas added just a little bit of sizzle, right? He added just that little something extra. We all talked about Sympty, the album that got me back into prog. But prog is such a small little offshoot of the whole world that the number 1 album of 2000, it's got to be the reunion that people cared about. It was Iron Maiden, where Adrian Smith and our boy Bruce come back into the fold. And it's not just like, let's just, bring these guys back in. Oh, we're keeping the old dude in the band, right? So we're going from a 2-guitar attack to a 3-guitar attack. And Bruce comes with the goods too, man. With one of the best songs Iron Maiden's ever done, with Blood Brothers. I mean, chills down the spine kind of moment. But you got the Wicker Man, you got the what is it? The Ghost of the Navigator. This whole thing is amazing. Every song on here is great. Who saw that coming? It put Iron Maiden back on the map, because all through the 90s, right, they were playing like 1,500 seaters. It was so sad, man. No one cared. No one was going to see Maiden. And I feel bad for Blaze, because it wasn't his fault, right? He's fine. He's a good singer. Just wasn't the right singer for that band. And man,
I remember seeing them on that tour, and it was fantastic.
Just amazing. The album that started the whole, so from Brave New World to Shinjuku, now that era of Iron Maiden is over with the retirement of Nico McBrain. So we saw one of the greatest runs of fantastic albums the world has ever seen, right there from Brave New World to Shinjuku. There, I said it. I love all of them. I think they're amazing albums. I really, really do. I love Maiden, and that's the album that brought them back from the dead. If you think about it, 24 years ago, that's crazy, man.
It's crazy.
And if you think about the whole legacy of Nico's drumming from Peace of Mind onwards, it's just astounding,
Incredible.
When I think
huge fan.
When I think of Iron Maiden in a general sense, I cannot believe that Bruce Dickinson is still able to sing those songs in their original keys with conviction. He is, well, he's a freak of nature. He truly is. I mean,
he is.
There are so many singers out there that struggle well before the time that he is right now. And he's just very impressive. Very impressive.
Probably never pushed his voice as hard as some of them, though. You know what I mean?
He takes good, obviously he takes good care of himself. Good genes, good health.
Yeah.
You got to. You know, it's like being a professional athlete. They say that LeBron James spends around $1 million a year on personal trainers, nutritionalists, and dietitians. $1 million a year for the maintenance of his body. That's his tools, right? If you're a plumber, right, you got a toolbox, right? I mean, his toolbox is his body, and he's got to upkeep them, maintain that, and it is incredible. You know, when you look at guys like Nico being able to do it. But you know, all the best to him. We've got we got the dude from British Lion, Steve Harris's drummer. Gonna be taking over the drum seat for Nico. So it's sad. It's the end of an era. And I wanted to honor Nico and my love for Iron Maiden here at the tail end of our love fest for the year 2000. But boys and girls, don't despair. I know we're almost wrapping it up here now. But next Sunday we've got a really, really good one, kiddies. We're going to be talking about the best songs of Queen. And I have a special guest, Patrick Lundstrom of Ritual. Yes, fresh off of their being named the #1 album of 2024 by me. And that's the only opinion that matters around here. Yes,
the only opinion. Yeah, the only opinion.
So, and you know, the first time I played Ritual in the car, or maybe it was Kaipa, because he sings in Kaipa also, along with Alina Gibson. My wife was like, dang, that guy sounds like Freddie Mercury. And you come to find out he's touring all over Europe in a Queen tribute band. Absolutely he is. That's why he's, making money. You don't make money playing prog rock, do you, Scott G. Davis?
Not to my knowledge.
Yeah, not too much. So that's this Sunday. It's going to be me, Kevin from Prog Radio, Patrick from Ritual. Oh, and an extra special guest. Yeah, we're finally getting Harold back. Harold the Barrel will be back next week talking about
Nightmare.
Queen. The Dutch Nightmare. He's coming back. And then the final Sunday of 2024. What is that, December 29th? We're doing the wrap-up show, the 2024 wrap-up show. It's going to be me, Kevin from Prog Radio, Nathan on Shuffle will be here. Oh, we love Nathan. Notes, reviews will be here. Oh, it's just going to be an all-star cast. And that wraps up 2024. And then the first show of 2025. Oh, I know I'm going long with this, but I'm just so excited about this lineup, man. Charlie Bramwell will be back. The great Charlie Bramwell. Oh, yeah. My man crush. He will be here talking about the new Ghost of the Machine single, which drops January 1st. Pre-orders for the new album start January 1st. Brand new label. It's on progrock.com essentials. Monforty's outfit he's got going on over there. So he's got new muscle, new support team. He's got me on his side, right? I didn't know Charlie when the first Ghost of the Machine album came out. So now I do. And it's just like the new Mythologic for 2025. You ain't seen nothing yet, man. Those numbers are just going to go shooting through the roof. We're all going to become millionaires. Anyway, for Pontus, the Swedish prog nerd, Scott G. Davis, the mastermind behind Mythologic, Pat from Close to the Edge, Wayne from Pocket Full of Heap, and Kyle from All Music, All Medium. When are you going to change your name, man? This name's terrible. It's the worst name on YouTube. It's All Media Review Podcast. Who's going to remember that?
Try say that 10 times.
No one's going to remember that. Anyway, guys, a great show. I love you. Peace in the Middle East. Free Tibet. Free the Ukraine. Free Willie. Free your mind. Free beer. Free this. Free that. Free everything. Free everybody. God save the king. I love you very much. I'll see you. Peace.